we have Dr. Kabir. So Dr. Kabir is the co-chair of NACIF. Dr. Hassan's achievements too numerous to adequately mention. Dr. Hassan is the most cited author of Islamic economics and finance. His awards include Senior Fulbright Scholar Award and the 2019 University of New Orleans Lifetime Research Achievement Award. Dr. Hassan consults for the IMF, the World Bank, the governments of Turkey, Norway, and Bangladesh. Among others, Dr. Hassan is the chair for AAOIFIS's Ethics, Governance, and Education Board. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly welcome Dr. Kabir Hassan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So what I'm going to say in this keynote speech has been said in many different forms by the previous authors. So, but let me share with you my thoughts because I live in this country, so I have a big thing I want to say. So, but first thing, the introduction to Islamic finance in the United States. Now, first we look at this thing, and many people say it's a retail product that started Islamic finance in this country. Now, wholesale investment products came later in this country, and in this presentation, I'm going to touch upon those issues. The first, how did this history of capital flow in the United States it happen? The early Sharia-compliant investment was primarily in the form of real estate investment by international investors, because 1970s, this flash oil money wanted to come to the West for secure investment, and they found close to Islamic finance is real estate investment, Gulf Investment House, Macondo Park, Texas, Truman Park, Maryland, new construction of apartment buildings, Macondo Park, Austin, Texas, and so on. Now, the growth of Islamic finance in the United States is a real recent numbers that I have gathered. Estimated size of Islamic finance market in the US is about $239 billion in 2024. And there's a Global Islamic Finance Report 2024 shows that. And annual growth rate, according to Financial Times, is about 7% in this country. And the Muslim population, many people say 3 to 0.5. Actually, since the census does not allow what is your religion, we do not know. It's a guess estimate. But I think it's about $10 million guess estimate. It's not 3.5, but Pew Research says that it's going to grow to about 8 million people by 2050. So why do you need this? Because you want to see the market size of the Islamic finance product. Because any product development anywhere, it always starts with locally or within the community, then it spreads around to the other community as well. Now, when you talk about Islamic finance, who are the major players? We have the banks, we have the investment firms, and we also have conventional banks with Islamic windows. So University Islamic Financial, this is one of the earliest one, and we have a representative here from that, offers home and business financing. Devon Bank, based in Chicago. By the way, this bank is a family-owned bank by a Jewish family, but the area they operate, there's a huge Muslim population, so they found a business opportunity, so they provide Muslim Ijara financing. Investment firm, we do have Saturna Capital, and they have the Amana that we talk about, Islamic Mutual Fund, and they're doing very well. We have Azad Asset Management as well. We also have HSBC Amana, provides Sharia-compliant financial product with a conventional banking framework. Now, if you look at home financing in this country, as Brother Atab Abdullah saying, you know, it's about Murabaha and Ijara type of financing. It has its own problem, but we also have to understand in the United States doing any types of debt-based financing, well, you have to follow with the regulation. The regulation is very strict. So we try to fit whatever way the Sharia parameters within the context that you're living in. So I agree with, if you could move away And that was the ideal, as Adam showed you and told you, and riba free, even in the West, it existed. Then it changed after 1971. We went away from the some commodity-based financing mechanism to a fiat financing mechanism. We have Sukuk. Yes, very often we say that, oh, the West is embracing Islamic finance, and we say blah, blah. But you have to understand, first one, it happened in Germany. So what they did, they securitized their existing real assets. So actually, in order to attract our money to invest into their country, doesn't create any wealth. Can you really take over the building that was used in order to do this, German section and the first one in Europe? You cannot really. So when Mufti Taqi Usmani talks about you have to create a financial product to generate values, generate employment, generate growth. So that's a greenfield investment, not using existing facility to increase debt and Islamic finance in against debt. Takaful, we talked about that we really do not have the Takaful framework in this country. So we know the Islamic finance conceptual framework again. I said it in the beginning speech today. No riba, no gharar. And riba has been explained many different ways. It creates inequality, it's exploitation. God has declared war against you, but God has permitted buy, but there is a fine line the way when you do murabaha financing, yes, we need buy, but end product is probably not different than what we see in conventional framework. Now, when you talk about Islam in this country, we really have to look at the federal level and the state level. Federal and state regulation impact on Islamic finance challenges integrate Sharia compliant products within US law. States most welcoming in this country are Texas, California, New York, mostly because of the size of the Muslim population. They try to cater, and you have the political leverage to do it. Approximately 50 Sharia compliant financial products available, and this is one of the recent information that I received. So ownership of the real estate. In the United States, when you talk about the bank doing ijara financing, there has to be a sale in between. Now, according to the US banking law, the banks are not really allowed to buy and sell. So again, because of the demand from the Muslim population, or they have used this a conventional loan and Islamic mortgage functionally equivalent. So that's why even though there is a buy and sell in paper, double taxation has been eliminated so that they create a level playing field for the ijara instrument that works in this country. Now, when you talk about the insurance, it's a big issue. But the Sharia scholar says that, the doctrine of necessity, whenever you do not have Islamic insurance, you try to buy conventional. Now, when you talk about the securitization of assets, only two entities that buys Islamic mortgages to provide more financing, that is Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, and that does. But again, we have Sharia scholar. I'm not a Sharia scholar. Many people question, some fine points of those buying and selling and so on. Now, Sharia regulation. So ultimate supreme in Islamic finance, there has to be someone who is going to look at the structure to say that it conforms to the requirements of Islamic law. So that person not only has to be expert in Islamic Sharia, but also understand how the financial product is structured, how it is run, and so on. And most of the, I think, the constraint of Islamic finance growth is happening from that part, because still we have two groups of people running the show. As I said yesterday and today, we need 3 in 1. We need a person, scholar, who is good in Sharia, who knows the principles of banking and economics, and also who is good in, I'm talking about IT, information technology. Now, in the United States, there is the establishment clause, and the establishment clause said that you cannot promote one religion over another religion at the federal level. So when you try to tell that that we want to run our life according to Islamic way, yes, you have the religious freedom. So you have to find a fine line between these two when you develop a product. And one of the presenters said that there are a lot more flexibility at the local level to do Islamic finance than at the federal level because you have to conform with the federal law. Now, there are different financial institutions, Adam and many others said in this country, the Guardians Financial, University Islamic Fund, Lariba, Takaful, Saturna Capital, and these are the different years that have been, that has been established. So Ijara istisna structure is very common when we talk about house financing. Modaraba, usually this istisna plus forward Ijara. This is the model that has been used. I didn't want to bother you with this. So this is the structure they use, SPB structure. But one of the problem that we face in this structure, in a truly a risk-sharing finance, the capital provider, the entrepreneur, cannot really guarantee the capital protection. So if this capital protection is there, as Adam said, business risk has to be or market risk has to be shared. And many of the financial product, if you go to the really macro level analysis, you'll find is missing here and there. This is where the biggest challenge that we face. So this model that I have shown you previously, this is the structure originally used by Makunda, then Truman Park, and many other institutions in this country. Now, what are the key drivers of Islamic finance? Not only in the United States, all over the world. So you have the consumers ultimately drive the industry. We have to really develop product driven by the consumer need. And ethical consumerism, increasing affluence, digital connectivity, growing population, and increasing religious affinity. And we know the third generation, those are Gen Z, our children, they do not like to work for the government, or many of them even work, let's say Google, those are very high achiever, but they quit and they want to do it on their own. They want to be an entrepreneur. That the venture capital industry somewhere, this is the true Islamic finance, unfortunately, that is not really developing. Sometime I question this, let's say a billionaire Muslim brother. They do not want to just take 10% of their $1 billion for the sake of this younger population who really need this capital in order to make something new. Talk about you want to fight the West, you want to fight, all these things. We have this common mentality, whatever happens, the misery to us, blame the Jews. But look at the Jewish population, how hardworking they are. Technology everywhere and this and that. The interesting part, that work ethics is very much Islamic. In the Quranic ayah, you pray, then you spread, look for livelihood. We are not doing that. Governments, in this country, government is not anti, whoever it is because of the constitutional protection that we have. But one government will be more or towards against Islam. If Donald Trump comes in, I do not know. Kamala Harris maybe will not be. But in general, I always say that even if you want to follow Islam, the ibadah part, it's the best country to follow. You can go to a mosque, nobody question. But in our country, Indo-Pakistan, we fight with each other, even mosque. People get killed for petty things, but it never happens in this country. But when you try to impose the values, and which is very much Abrahamic faith, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, that's where the real fight starts. And they think that we are trying to make this country Muslim country. Of course, the freedom of religion is there. So we have to really, those who are scholars, we try to, sometimes in general, we criticize them, but you have to understand the limitation they are operating under. The growth of multinational corporations, investor return is important. Sooner or later, people ask, okay, fine, I invest my money, which one is giving me higher rate of return? Halal economy. Now, when an immigrant comes to this country, first two things happen, look for a masajid. And the second, then he or she looks for halal chicken, and they stop there. Seriously, the masajid then open a shop with halal chicken. That's Islam, just in two things. Islam is more than that. If you look at this immigrant Muslim population in this country, they should go to the higher value added. They should become an engineer, doctor, and so on. They can become affluent, because if you have money, then you can you become a political force, people listen to you, and so on. You know what is happening in Gaza right now? Even with this injustice, United States never stops sending arms, because we do not have this political or the financial power to do this. It's about roughly $25 billion. Somebody asked the question, the halal chicken that you're eating, have you asked yourself whether the halal chicken was prepared by halal money? Most of the halal chicken that you eat are prepared by haram money, because interest-based financing. Some way, these two things, the two in has detached at birth, right? Halal food and halal money. So we need to really can integrate these things, because it's still, vegetarian, the Indian, it's a significant portion of the Hindu population like the vegetarian. Vegetarian has become a common name in many places. They will ask in convention that you go, and now because you have to assert, now they ask, we are asking that we have to also prepare us, give us the halal food too. Like one of the brothers, the doctor said that, yeah, it is our right, because you cannot do this, okay? Now, we have to do this combination of this halal and haram. I'm talking about within the halal industry, traditional halal food and beverage market, the evolution, we need to integrate these two together. And there is a role for the Sharia scholars to play in this part as well. Now, we talk about the existing Islamic financial institution, though not many really. I already mentioned this University Islamic Financial, Devon Bank, Amana Mutual Fund, Saturna, Takaful USA, and they have a different business model and so on. University Islamic Bank, if I look at, they talk about in details the background, the guidance, residential, and what is the business model. Usually it works on the business model of Islamic financial contracts, diminishing musharaka. If you look at the market strategy, the guidance actually used to, I was also invited to speak some. They said they come to the conferences, maybe Islamic conference, but also see some of the social presence, but not the way how to tap the market. Then you have the University Islamic Financial Corporation as their business model, again, Murabaha, and also they do some sort of redeemable loans and personal financing to individuals. So again, attractive website they have. If you go there, they have what if, all these things you can find. American Finance House, Lariba. With Lariba, we have Dr. Main. Their financial product, if I look at someone, I'm not a Sharia scholar, I have question about their financial model, the way. But anyway, it has a sizable, market. Again, it looks at, Murabha type of financing. Again, please don't misunderstand this banking. Unfortunately, what Adam said, Islamic bank or conventional bank, they cannot, the model itself does not allow them to go beyond Murabha financing. And they really create more and more debt. In Islamic bank, they do it in the name of Islam. Conventional, of course, in the name of riba. Okay. So these are the different comparison of existing Islamic financial institutions. As I mentioned, the number share guidance is 35%. Islamic Financial, University Islamic Fund 20%, Lariba 15%, Devon Bank 10%, and Saturna Capital 10%. And they're the customer base that I mentioned. So there are different types of customers. I do not have the religious background, but I assume the most of these customers are basically Muslims. When we talk about the wholesale Islamic finance in the US, Sharia Capital, based in Connecticut, is one of the earliest wholesale financial institutions founded by Eric Mayer. The idea was to create a Sharia-compliant platform for hedge funds that use both long-only as well as long-short strategies. Started in 2001, development process took several years. to complete and to get the approval. And 2007, Sharia Capital launched the Al Safi platform, which provides a system for investment management to launch Sharia compliant hedge funds. And the Sharia Capital, through a subsidiary in the Cayman Island, offers Sharia screening and Sharia compliant short sale using Arbon. And you know the Arbon product, those are Sharia scholars, is a replicates a short sale, but does not identically replicate this. In a way, Arbon is similar to an option as it has a fixed length of time before the transaction concludes. In an Arbon contract, the buyer specifies a good for purchase and makes down payment of the seller, and buyer makes the rest of the payment at a future date. And if he decides not to purchase the good, the seller reclaims the title to the good and keeps the down payment. This contract, so this is a very close that you can get compared to a conventional option. The contract did not necessarily have a set date for the buyer to either pay the remaining price, etc. So these are the Sharia Capital Arbon. So we talk about these things. Wholesale Sharia Capital uses the Arbon short sale. So basically this is, so the Dubai Sharia Hedge Fund Index tracks the value of DSM's Kauthar Commodity Fund Limited, which is the fund of funds invested equally in 4 commodity hedge funds. And again, there's a lot of question among the Sharia scholar, the hedge funds, whether they're Islamic or not. In 2009, the Dubai Gold Securities was launched under the advisor of Sharia Capital. Dubai Gold Securities is an ETF exchange-traded firm similar to the GLD available in the US, but is slightly altered to be Sharia compliant. Later, some new US companies started working in the Islamic wholesale market. So there are other wholesale financial institutions. Anchor Finance Group, it's a New York-based company, launched in 2005, provides financial consulting for structured finance, syndication product development, and trade finance. You know, I didn't know many of these things until I started researching to make my presentation. I do not know how many of you know all of those things. Probably Dr. Mine knows, but I'm not. Ideal Rating, this another institution based in San Francisco and created 2006, provides technology platform to Sharia compliant fund manage to assist in a screening of investment and ensure that they are remain Sharia compliant. So it's a screening technology. I'm sure there are other screening technology came to the market too. Geus Capital Advisors 2007, another firm started offering Sharia compliant financial advisory services, and Zion Finance 2007 produces commercial real estate financing using an Musharaka Muntasina, and Zaki Financial, brother that mentioned, you know, we only hear these things in this conference, and they really should too. And Islamic financial planning is really very underdeveloped. And many of us really, I'm a finance professor, and honestly, I don't have a financial plan either. So we need to have it really. So the wholesale Islamic finance in the US in 2008, Codex Capital began operating offshore Sharia compliant structuring devices. In 2008, to Islamic atheist Taha Abdul Wasser, he was at Harvard, and Faraz Rabbani started the Straightway Ethical Advisory. They provide Sharia advisory services to the first Islamic ETF in the US, named at the Javelin JTS Islamic Market. By the way, he is also involved with Pew Research, is one of the guy. I am not sure whether you know, there was a project based in Georgetown University about 10, 15 years ago. It's called MAPS, Muslim American in Public Square. And Pew or somebody else gave $1 million fund, and they did a series of studies at that time. At that time, I also did some work for them as well. Now, in 2009, the trade finance firm, Delphi, announced that it would launch a Sharia compliant trade finance with $100 million in the investment. So retail finance, you have the mutual funds and ETFs. There are some papers presented here, but only mutual fund Islamic that I know is Saturna Capital. We could come up with other mutual fund as well. Now, what is missing? You know, we have this basic contradiction or question, doubt in our mind. Many people say we live in Darul al-Harab. It's not an Islamic country, so anything could be permissible under the doctrine of necessity. But we should try, as said that it is an individual, we have to individual Sharia scholar. You know, I cannot say Dr. Mayin said this. In the day of judgment, said, did you understand what Dr. Mayin said, right? So we have to really understand, and we have to come up with this product and try to do this within the United States. So when we talk about, you know, this main impetus started the Dow Jones Islamic Index. Again, Dow Jones Islamic Index is not really doing it for the benefit of the Muslim. They want to attract funds to the United States from the Middle East, so they have created this screening technology, 1998. Then 2000, the Azad management launched the Azad Fund as well. And June 2009, as a result, Azad, you know, the expenses, basically your product has to be competitive with the rest of it. And 2009, Amana Fund that I said, and 2009, again, Javelin Exchange has started their product. Now I'm coming to our SAN. So what are the challenges and the ways forward for the Islamic finance in the US? Now, I will segment this in different ways. So first, issues related to investment in the US by international investors. Usually they focus on primarily real estate, and tax treatment of the investment is their primary concern. Most common structure used are similar in Istisna Ijara structure of the Makunda Park and Truman Park apartment projects. Another structure is Ijara-based acquisition, where investor uses Ijara to purchase properties in the US to keep segregation from the debt used in the property acquisition. One important distinction for US tax law is whether the investment fund is the owner of the properties it leases from the SPV. If the fund itself is the owner, it must assume the responsibilities management that it does not assume under an Ijara lease, except under the supplementary agreement to act on behalf of the SPV. So US tax law actually promotes or encourages a financial lease rather than an operating lease. If you look at the Islamic structuring, the Ijara should be an operating lease. Unfortunately, the tax law does not. So we try to, you know, create all this legal hierarchy, you know, complex, contract just to make it Sharia compliant. So look like it's Sharia, but at the end result is more expensive, more inefficient many ways. So Islamic finance industry, because of faith, I want to do it, you know, according to my faith. So it's very profitable industry, but very cost inefficient. And I have done this for the banking. I have done this for other work using technical analysis and so on. Now, issues related to US regulation of mutual fund. In general, mutual funds which invest in US equities but are organized outside the United States are exempt from the Invest Company Act of 1940, which created the regulation of mutual funds. But this exemption requires that the funds not be available to investors within the United States. But if you want to do it and sell it to the US consumers and market, mutual funds in the US, whether conventional Islamic, are required to be registered under the Investment Company Act. Investment Company Act primarily deals with the investor protection and does not have a significant impact on Islamic mutual fund compared to conventional one. When it comes to Sukuk, again, there's an instrument being used. Impact of regulation on Sukuk issuers is similar to the same conventional financial product issued by the global investors. I know it's boring, but let me finish a couple of slides. Compliance of such regulation may increase the cost if the Sukuk must be registered under the Securities Act of 1933. In general, they opt for one of the two. It's called Safe Harbor Exemption or Regulation S or Regulation 144A. Most Sukuk issuers opt for the Regulation S Safe Harbor exemption that provides an exemption for investment products offered by offshore issuers and sold exclusively to offshore investors. So conclusion, in the UK, the Muslim population probably is bigger than the US, right? You have more than 10 million people in the UK, Adam? Okay. So, but there are a number of full-fledged banks there, many of them struggling. But in the United States, University Islamic probably is one of this part, very close to can say that bank that operates. There is one provider of Takaful AIG, an Islamic finance business is headquartered outside the United States. Such lack of infrastructure for Islamic finance within US may limit the role the US can play in the Islamic finance industry as a whole. So we are missing, not from the education standpoint, knowledge standpoint, we're also missing the infrastructure point in order to promote the Islamic finance industry. Unlike those who come from Pakistan or Middle East, they do have the infrastructure and so on. As a result, the lead of the Western capital of Islamic finance seems to be assumed by London, Singapore, or Hong Kong instead of New York. So finally, conclusion, one area where this could have a significant impact on the retail investment prospect for the 5 to 7 million Muslims living in the US, as you have described, one of the areas where retail Islamic finance has intersected with the capital market in the mutual fund and exchange traded fund. These funds, however, have been mostly equity-based financing. For many Muslims, having for retirement, the financial planning is very much missing. So there are good reasons for wholesale Islamic industry to develop to cater to their investment needs. So there are a lot of works needs to be done. For this, we need the human capital. We need a program that we can train those financial scholars, but we also have to create the opportunity, job opportunity for them. Otherwise, they will be trained here and then go to Dubai. That doesn't help for the Muslim population in this country. We have to create an environment they can make a living, they can stay here, and I hope Guidance College along with the other financial academic institutions can do that. For this, we need to develop the concept of foundation and waqf. As I said in the morning, we do not have a hospital run by Islamic charity, but there are many, 80% of these financial services in this country are owned and run by some sort of Christian charity or Jewish charity. We cannot name single one. We do not have this endowment the way the Harvard was created. We can easily do this. The final word I said as an anecdote, one time I heard a big news that the Sultan of Brunei gave $10 million to a dog charity in Paris. But if I ask some of the richest men that, invest some of these things for the future of the Muslim population, we really need to cater to these people. They are our future. We can create Mark Zuckerberg, all these people very easily. We have the talent. And if you look at the internet savvy, there is another study I was reading that this 15 to 30, the most of the highest population is the Muslim world, they are very internet savvy. All you need, little bit push, encouragement, and little bit capital. And thank you very much for listening to me.